Hey, what is going on, YouTube? It is your boy Tropical NHL back at it again for a brand new YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about the NHL entry draft. I just finished my 6-hour long live stream reacting to the draft. It was a lot of fun. Got a lot of donations, got a lot of people out there. I was really happy with it. Thanks for everybody that was on the live stream, that leave a like, that left some comments in the chat, that only watched it. There's some people that stayed the entire time with me watching the draft, so that really means the world to me. And today we're going to be talking about the Habs selection at 5th overall and at David Reinbacher. If you guys saw my reaction on TikTok, on Twitter, it's starting to get a decent amount of views on TikTok. Some people don't agree with me, some people agree with me, and I'm going to explain why I was disappointed on the pick. You guys saw my videos over the last weeks talking about the draft. I said that I wanted the Habs to take either Mishkov, to take either Benson, to take either Leonard, to take Will Smith if he was still there, depending on who's going to get drafted in front. We already knew basically at like 95% of the top four was going to go Bedard, Fantilli Carlson, Smith. We knew that was going to be like that. Carlson got selected 2nd overall to the Anaheim Ducks. That was a little surprise. Fantilli ended up getting selected by the Blue Jackets. And Will Smith went to the San Jose Sharks like it got reported 2 weeks ago. And then it left the Montreal Canadiens the decision to take on or not Matvei Mishkov. I've been saying it for 2 months now. I did not expect the Canadiens to take Mishkov. I did not expect them to take him. I wanted them to take Mishkov. I was just like, Mishkov would be so great. Mishkov would be amazing. I didn't think they were going to take him. Like, it was, in my head, practically confirmed that they were not going to take him if he was the only player available out of the top 5 at the 5th overall. But I did not expect them to pick Reinbacher at the 5th overall. Like I said in my video I made earlier today, I said that I expected the Montreal Canadiens to trade down if Will Smith and Leo Carlson were taken in the top 4. And yes, they did not do that. Like, when I saw Will Smith getting selected by the Sharks, I was like, all right, they're not going to take Mishkov, but at least they're going to trade down maybe to 7th overall with the Flyers, and they're going to take Leonard, they're going to take Benson, they're going to take someone like that. And that's not what happened. The Canadiens went on the stage. I was just like, all right, they might take Leonard. Leonard at 5 would be fine. It's not the best case scenario, but it's not the worst case scenario either. And when I looked at it, I was just like, all right. And then Carey Price came in. Worst draft announcement ever. Wasn't even able to name the guy properly. He apologized on Twitter. We still love you, Carey. You're the GOAT. Best Habs of all time. But yeah, even Carey couldn't believe it. He was just like, David. As soon as he said David, I went crazy. If you guys want to go see my reaction, it's on TikTok at Tropical NHL. It's worth the placement, and it's funny. It's funny. I was pissed off, and I was not pissed off because they took Reinbacher. Like I said multiple times, no, I don't see the comparison with Moritz Seider. I don't think they're similar at all. I don't feel like they play a similar game at all. When you look at highlights from Moritz Seider in his draft year, and when you look at highlights from Reinbacher in his draft year, it's not similar at all. The only similarity is in the size. They're both European. They both were playing with adults at a young age. But in terms of play style, I don't see it. David Reinbacher is a first-round pick. He is a first-round pick. He is a top 15 pick, in my opinion. But he is not a 5th overall pick. And he is not a 5th overall pick in that good of a draft. He is not a player that you draft before guys like Mishkov when they're available. He is not a guy that you draft before Leonard was available. And he is not a guy that you draft before a guy like Benson when he's available. And that's what got into me. I was just like, this is the best offensive draft of the decade. And the Montreal Canadiens decided to take a defenseman at the 5th overall. So I was pissed off. Not because they took Reinbacher, because they mismanaged the value of that pick, in my opinion. Yes, the Arizona Coyotes were most likely going to take him at 6. But still, you just take a defensive guy. You take Mishkov, you take Leonard, you take Benson, you take any of those guys like that are going to be NHL stars, offensive NHL stars in the future. And I'm not saying Reinbacher won't be a star. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he was not the best player available at 5. Kent Hughes said multiple times that he was going to draft best player available. He did not do that. He did not draft best player available. David Reinbacher was not the best player available. He was not the second best player available. He was not the third best player available. He was not the fourth best player available. He was not the fifth best player available. He was one of the best players available. Best defenseman of this draft. Yes, maybe. But in that good of an offensive draft, in that good of an offensive first round, to take a defenseman at the 5th overall like that is shocking. And for the Coyotes to draft Simashev with the 6th overall was even more shocking. It just shows that the Coyotes would have drafted Reinbacher at 6th, but like, man, Reinbacher at 5 is crazy, man. Crazy. Before y'all say I'm mad for nothing, I'm not mad at the kid. Like, the kid is going to be good. I'm not going to be hating on him. I want him to prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, David. Show me you're a great player. Show me you're better than I think you are. But he was not the best player available. Mishkov was the best player available. Leonard was the second best player available. And Zach Benson was the third best player available. And I can't believe Zach Benson ended up getting selected 14th overall. 13th overall by the Buffalo Sabres. He's going to join up his good friend Matthew Savoy over there, and it's going to be dangerous. And in Montreal, it's 2 controversial picks with 2 high draft picks in 2 years. They did that 2 times in a row. And I've talked about it multiple times in other videos. I think that the biggest mistake that the Habs did in their new management was the hiring of Nick Bobrov. Nick Bobrov was head of scout of the New York Rangers when Jeff Gorton was the GM of the New York Rangers. He's the one that hired Nick Bobrov. And when he was there, let's say Nick Bobrov did not make some good decision. He was head of scouts for the Rangers from 2017 to 2020. He was there from 2017 to 2020. Let's just take a look on the picks he made. Let's start with 2017. When you look at that, they had the 7th overall pick in that draft. 2017 was a pretty decent draft as well. You can see Martin Nikis, Nick Suzuki, Gabe Villardio, Owen Tippett. There were a lot of good guys. Josh Norris, Robert Thomas, Jake Hottinger. All of those guys were really, really impactful player. But Nick Bobrov decided to take Elias Anderson. What did Elias Anderson become in the National Hockey League? He has 17 points, 7 goals in 110 games. He is not good. He was not the best player available, but he decided to draft a European player instead of drafting a guy in North America that had way more upside. In Villardi, for example, in Suzuki, for example, he went for the European player, and he's always like that. He's always been like that. He always goes for European players, and he did the same thing in 2018. When you go and take a look at it, he took Vitaly Kravtsov at 9, when there were guys like Bouchard available, Noah Dobson, Oliver Wahlstrom, a lot of good players were still available. And when you look at Vitaly Kravtsov, Vitaly Kravtsov as, 12 points, 6 goals, and 64 games. He got traded for peanuts to the Vancouver Canucks, and he's been struggling over there. And when you go down a bit more in the draft, you drafted Nils Lundqvist, another European player at the 28th overall, and he hasn't been performing really well either. He hasn't been performing to what he was drafted for. So when you look, it's a tendency that followed him all the way up in Montreal. He's still drafting European players for need instead of drafting best player available. He always goes for best European available player instead of going for best player available in general. He did the same thing last year with Juraj Slafkovsky at 1st overall. He's always going after European players, and I think it's an issue. I think that Nick Bobrov is not a good head of scout, and I think that's the biggest mistake Habs did so far in their rebuild of the management. I think that I don't think Kent Hughes made that decision alone. He probably got pressured by Bobrov, Jeff Gorton, who is really, really close to Nick Bobrov. And I don't know what happened, but they went for the European again. I'm not saying Reinbacher won't be good, but he won't be better than Mishkov. He won't be better than Benson. He won't be better than Leonard. Let's be realistic out here. He is a good player, but he was not the best player available in that good of a draft at the 5th overall pick. That's just how it is. That's a fact. He was not the best player available at the 5th overall. And when you look at it, getting a defenseman, next year there's a ton of defensemen or good defensemen that are going to be available at the draft. They could have just taken the forward in a draft full of good forwards this year. Take a Mishkov, take a Leonard, take a Benson, and next year draft a defenseman. And when you look at it, it's way easier to go after players like Reinbacher, defensemen, top 4 defensemen like Reinbacher, via free agency and via the trade markets. You will never be able to trade for a guy like Mishkov. You will never be able to sign a guy like Mishkov in Montreal via free agency. You will never be able to trade for a guy like Ryan Leonard. You will never be able to trade for a guy like Zach Benson. Those guys are going to be stars, and their teams are going to keep them. David Reinbacher, you can have those guys via trades. You can have those guys via free agency in the future. And with all the prospects we already have on the defense, I would have loved them to take a shot at a superstar forward, a franchise caliber forward that we haven't had in years and decades. That's what we wanted to see. They decided to go for Reinbacher. He's not a bad player. He's going to be good. His ceiling is probably a top 4, third or fourth defenseman. He's going to be good. He's going to have an impact with the Habs. He's going to be with the team for a long time. But he won't be half of what Matvei Mishkov would have been. He won't be half of what Benson would have been. He won't be half of what Leonard is going to be. And that's what was disappointing. I would have been okay if they would have traded down, took Reinbacher at 7, took Reinbacher at 8, because Can't you confirmed it? There are multiple trade offers coming from other teams for the 5th overall. The only reason why he didn't accept those is because they feared that the Coyotes were gonna take Reinbacher at 6. And you can say yes, if the Coyotes wanted to take Reinbacher at 6, it's probably because he's good. Yes, he's good. But you can't take the Coyotes as an example, because when you take a look at who they drafted Simashev, who was in most mock drafts around the 22nd overall spot at the 6th overall, and they selected Daniel Bu, who at the 12th overall, who was expected to go between 25 to 32nd. So not the best draft for the Coyotes either. There were a lot of surprises in this draft. And yes, I think that the Canadiens are gonna regret not taking Mishkov, not taking Leonard, not taking Benson. I still do think that Reinbacher is gonna be all right. It's not him. It's not the fact that he took him. It's the fact that he took him before all those other guys. And you guys need to understand that. I do not hate Reinbacher. I do not think he's going to be bad. I just think that he was not the best player available at that spot. And that's why I was mad. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys all think about this. Do you guys agree with me? Give me your opinion in the comments below. What were your reactions of David Reinbacher getting selected by the Montreal Canadiens? Let me know in the comments. Let's try and get 125 likes on this video. That would be amazing. And I'll see y'all later for another video. Have a nice rest of your day. Have a good night if you're watching this today. And yeah, bye-bye.